Welcome to a special session. Yours truly, coffee and lunch. Actually, dinner with yours truly, Adrian H, Dragonborn, being reborn, Adrian Hannah Dragon. It's gonna be a special financial, education, and meditation special coffee with yours truly. Gonna be lighting a candle for meditative purposes and throughout the duration of the video. As I'm concerned about the recent financial news from China, Evergrande, one of the biggest real estate market developers in the world, the potential contagion and the potential risk to the global economy. Paradoxically, yours truly am living the worst financial crisis of my adult life with this COVID. Although my rent is paid for September and got money food supplies to last me for the next coming days. And as a matter of fact, I got $13.30, of which tomorrow, when we're gonna learn more if Evergrande is gonna default on the debt or not. Potentially the crisis could start tomorrow, the internal financial crisis in China due to Evergrande defaulting, and with a possible consequence of a greater stock market downturn globally, worldwide, because of contagion and fears and such. So we'll be doing some learning today by reading a little bit of cup of coffee. Just a cup of coffee. I'm gonna be munching a little bit on something that I cooked. It's beets, rice, and white onions, which have together this trinity of delicious beats. Yeah, I do love beats. Beats not just on the rock, hip hop, techno beats, but on these hard streets, mean cement blocks and rocks. But beats and rice with onions. Remember the motto of the Dancing Goddess, who's Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire, one empire under the sun and the stars on earth. The motto of the Dancing Goddess is, of course, that all ALL fruits, vegetables, and legumes are made, created, and produced by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun. Even this black coffee bean, which comes from a red berry, was made, created, and produced by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun. And I'm now drinking 8:30 p.m. EST Hawk Island for me to get some energy to do some 93 minutes of reading, meditation, and ranting. And this food to fuel for this brain fuel, and overnight to wake up more financially wise. In a parallel life, finance, banking, commerce would have been a chosen path, although diverged. Spiritual, philosophical, psychological, emotional, rational, artistic, irrational, that is, emotive, and physical working out training has been my chosen path. Yours truly, Adrian H, Dragonborn, being reborn during this COVID, with every push-up, every stop, every hawk, every squat, every dance move that I do. This room offers a temple on the ground in Hawk Island, Montreal, on the streets of Hawk Island, Montreal, or, as a matter of fact, Mount Royal. Yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, androgynous, pansexual, founder of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire. See the flag of the red dragon head, which is red, black, and yellow and orange, with the emblem of the Dancing Goddess, whose motto is all fruits, vegetables, and legumes are made, created by the dance, even those back in ancient Egypt to build those pyramids, the Great Wall of China, by our brothers and sisters farmers back then, as they are today in Canada, Montreal, North America, for us to build skyscrapers. Our brothers and sisters, leaders of the free world, farmers, deserve to have their bodies massaged, kissed, which I'm offering as yours truly, androgynous, pansexual, Adrian Hannah Dragon, founder of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Army. I've realized how fucking useless I can fucking be during this COVID, since in this life I've never farmed, although in many other lives was a farmer by the Nile in ancient Egypt, in ancient Rome, ancient Israel, ancient India, ancient China, many past lives, many incarnations, yours truly. It's a beautiful green candles for there's a beautiful priestess holding a sword on the So yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, androgynous pansexual, founder of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire. Gonna be doing some reading, a little bit of introduction of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire, the paradoxical providential parallel, birth thereof. Yours truly, October 2019, 93 days before COVID. As a world peace advocate, independent student, scholar of history, wars, geopolitics, I've analyzed an independent security analyst and theorist. I've analyzed the situation, taking into consideration the ongoing US-China trade war began by the Trump administration in the beginning of 2018. I've taken that into consideration along with the arrest of Meng Wanzhou, aka Cathy Meng, the chief financial officer of Huawei. And the US-China trade war, consequently after the arrest by the RCMP in order to honor an extradition treaty with the United States. Let it be known I was an American twice in past lives, 156 years ago, 718 miles from Hawk Island, formerly known as Montreal, served in the US Army. Yours truly, 2019 October, was analyzing the situation as a world peace advocate, independent student, scholar of history, and I was saying to my analysis that we, humanity, are on a path to World War III. So created, designed a new training program after experimenting with different training workout techniques. I've lost 65 pounds up to that moment in time, and down my reach of goal of 77 pounds up to today. A few more, converting them to lean, natural, raw muscle mass. I'm going to do a lot of outdoors in the coming 3 months, while time permits, to train with rocks and concrete and Hawk Island, Montreal, around the city. So yours truly created a new training program, officially titled General War Integrated Total Body Training System, designed created to go hand in hand with the World War III scenario, which in a nearly paradoxical, providential way resembles the COVID-19 health and financial crises. And due to that fact that it resembles the COVID-19 health and financial crisis, that's what I've began advocating for, just as the solution, which was in my scenario, my World War III scenario, that is. Keep in mind that my General War Integrated Total Body Training System was designed, made, and created to go hand in hand with the World War III scenario, the aforementioned. And back in 2019, the first session was October 17, 2019. You can see it from my channel on the Ra Isis, symbolically for the goddess that dances with her brother the sun and gets kissed by the goddess of infinite space, infinite stars above, goddess of heavens. As the kiss transforms into 1,000,000,000,000 kisses, and yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, has found it thereof. Due to that paradoxical providential parallel of COVID-19 health and financial crisis resembling my scenario, my World War III scenario. My World War III scenario was based on my analysis as an independent student, scholar of history, wars, geopolitics, and economics, and wars and civilizations, as an independent security analyst and theorist, and as a world peace advocate. So I was alarmed by what was transpiring, the US-China trade war, arrest of Meng Wanzhou, the chief financial officer of Huawei, in December 2018, which subsequently triggered the arrest of Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig on espionage charges by Chinese authorities. Detained. Michael Spavor was about 22 days ago sentenced to 11 years officially. Keep in mind that the arrest of Meng Wanzhou came with an honor and extradition treaty with our brothers and sisters in the USA, with the US, by the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is parallel to the FBI here up north, North Canada, North America. And so those factors into consideration, historical events such as Pearl Harbor, had made me create the World War III scenario, which was designed, made, and created to go hand in hand with the workout. That is, they go together complementary, like two sides of a coin, if you will. And the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the 300 workout, was designed, made, and created with the aforementioned scenario, the World War III scenario, based on my analysis as an independent student, scholar of history, wars, geopolitics, civilizations. And I was saying, alarming my mind after my analysis early October 2019, we, Canada, North America, Canada, US, North America, NATO member countries, the West, if you will, free world, we, humanity, we are on a path to World War III. And paradoxically, as a world peace advocate, which still am, hoping for the reestablishment of cordial, mutually beneficial and friendly relations across the world, for a new world order of world peace, international justice, global freedom, securing and ensuring global freedom and ensuring freedom is rather what yours truly Dragon Zero is calling for, paradoxically, parallel, in a providential way, eerie way even. 93 days before COVID, October 17, held my first session of the General War Integrated Total Body Training System. Those 7 words, General War Integrated Total Body Training System, translates as the 300 workout, created to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, which in a near paradoxical providential way resembles the COVID-19 and the financial crisis. Now on COVID, my trinity of beliefs surrounding COVID has been, is, and will be this. First and foremost, do not know what caused COVID. Second, believe that it was created from transmitted to human beings via snakes. Third, since do not know for sure, my belief in snakes is not confirmed, cannot rule out another possibility. XYZ, man-made accident in the laboratory, experiment gone wrong, deliberate bioweapon, etc. Another possibility. Don't know for sure, believe it was snakes. My belief, there's a doubt, since don't know for sure, thus cannot rule out another possibility. That trinity, not knowing, believing it was snakes, and thus since not being 100% sure that snakes caused it, although believe it, there's a doubt, don't know for sure, thus cannot rule out another possibility. To that trinity, there's a fourth dimension. What do know 100% without an inch of a doubt is that before COVID, 93 days before COVID, yours truly created, designed, and made a new training program officially titled General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the 300. Designed, made, and created to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, which in an eerie, paradoxical, providential way resembles the COVID-19 health and financial crises. That's I do know for sure. What causes World War III in my scenario is a stock market crash, which in a paradoxical, providential, parallel way resembled the COVID-19 induced coronavirus recession, started by the coronavirus COVID stock market crash, which began, I believe, February 20th and ended about April 7th, triggering recessions and depression worldwide, and it's ongoing. And since, and I know for sure, and since in my scenario, which predates COVID by about 93 days, there was a solution to the devastation and destruction of the World War III event. That's what I began since July 24th, 2020. I began advocating for, due to that fact, the creation of the International Citizen Integrated Social Security Force, aka the Dragon Army, of which becoming Dragon Zero, General Founding Captain thereof, in order to secure the 3 elements of civilization: food, housing, and transport, and the refusion of debt, creating a global central bank. By biometrics, refusing, taking all private and public debt, refusing it, to create the 2 institutions, complementary, covenant, cooperative institution of the International Integrated Dance League, aka the Dancing Goddess Army, to attain harmony between nature and the environment, organize mass dancing events across the world, local, national, international, especially on the Sabbath with 38 hour week, Sabbath, 37 hours, 49 minutes, 42 seconds officially. And in parallel to the Dragon Army, the International Integrated Social Security Force, aka the Dragon Army, to secure food, housing, and transport for all, and this will ensure freedom. So, as the solution, that's what I began advocating for since July 24 due to COVID. After we have secured food, housing, and transport by the creation of this global central bank and the global biometric global unit of exchange, securing food, housing, and transport, making it easy for people to have allocated XYZ amounts that they can move around, by car, by public transport, XYZ amount per day, let's say, cumulative, of course, it's not used, and to make relative changing of habitation easy, not be abusive, but within the bi-weekly, monthly, whatever have you. Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, if people don't get along, but if somebody wants to change every other day, well, hey, citizen, ally, subject, don't abuse, don't be selfish now. Just isolate yourself for a week and you'll be able to go move somewhere else next week. And this will, of course, create more integration, since we have been since 1984, lots of lots of specialization has occurred, and now we need a lot of integration for the 21st century universal revolutionary centrism, as embodied in the Phoenix People's Party, the anti-war, anti-poverty, anti-racism, pro-love, universal revolutionary centrist party, creating the global central bank by biometrics, securing food, housing, and transport for all by a public-private partnership in order to secure food, housing, and transport by biometrics, refusing all private and public debt, creating a universal global of exchange. By that credit of all existing public and private debt, my private is X1. If I'm X1, my equals $10,000. Then you're X2, and there's hundreds of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions of X's across NATO member countries first, North America first. And the Americas NATO member countries are, as in Israel, calling Israel to be the 31st NATO member country alliance. 31st, so hopefully by midnight, hopefully still for that first donation for a commission for yours truly, but perhaps by midnight by my PayPal, may be rewarded threefold in kind. I have no sponsor, official sponsor, private or public at this moment, financial, except for my friend, oftentimes teacher, the one I love and call sister, who to that trinity of sister, friend, teacher adds a fourth dimension to that trinity of friend, teacher, sister, providing filters for yours truly to drink cleaner, purer, healthier coffee and drink water, healthier, purer water, by providing the filters and the apparatus, the gadget, the machine, for yours to drink cleaner, purer, healthier water. So that I do know. On COVID, don't know for sure, thinking with snakes, cannot rule out another possibility to do that fact. Fourth dimension to that trinity, what do know for sure is that before COVID, 93 days, October 2019, 17th of October was the first time that I've performed my session, and I've documented on YouTube and on Facebook Lives the general war integrated total body training system, which is required of everybody willingly loving, anybody willingly loving, to join the Dragon Army. Of course, to be able to do this applies to all public and private security forces, as I'm calling for the creation of the International Citizen Integrated Social Security Force, just as envisioned in my scenario, which was a World War III scenario, which would have the solution for after the devastation and the destruction, to build back better, and of course to secure the three elements of civilization: food, housing, and transport by a public-private partnership, and by my financial theory or debt refusion, refusing all private and public debt. If I'm X1 and my is X $10,000, then you're X2, and so on and so forth, hundreds of millions of X's put together with the private. If the private is Canada's Y, Y1, United States Y3, Germany Y3, United States Y2, Y4, Israel, and so 31, and whatever other countries, nation states, 156, 93, 77, 31, for the number, taking all that private and public debt, refusing it, creating the global central bank by biometrics to issue parallel and finance the two institutions, which will work together in a coven and cooperative complementary way to attain harmony between civilization and with nature, to organize mass dancing events for the mass cleaning of the oceans, rivers, waterways, lakes, to dance for Mother Nature, the greatest artist, the forgotten goddess that dances with her brother the sun, to create all fruits, vegetables, and legumes. This rice, this white onion, and this red beet was made, created, and produced by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun, and harvested by my brothers and sisters, farmers, who deserve to get their massages, kisses, love, and washing of the hands and feet by the leaders of the free world. Realize how fucking useless I can be since didn't farm in this life. An artist, poet, world's greatest living, dancing millennial rainbow poet nonetheless. Founded during this COVID, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire, which are one empire and the stars are on the sun on earth. I realized when this COVID, how interdependent we are, how my work and somebody else's work depends on being able to feed myself, drink the coffee, right? My rent's paid for September. October, don't know, right? Been struggling financially. This COVID, worst financial situation. $10,000 in debt, overdraft. I'm $545 in the minus, although get paid $4 a month to have the overdraft protection. And so, not easy for a lot. Billionaires, I'm hoping the billionaires, a billion is 1,000 million, will step up and mass finance job creation, and will support the plan Dragon 0, yours truly, from the heart to my allies and armies, blessings with healing, regeneration, wisdom. From the goddess, founded the bank, Dancing Goddess and Dragon Empire with trillions, 93 trillion kisses. Credit from the goddess, the dancer were bird, the son who gets kissed by the goddess of heaven, her sister. And 77 trillion push-ups, hawk squats from the eye, the sun who's the eye of the dragon. So yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, calling all willingly loving to support with mission, vision, and philosophy thereof. Gonna get started doing this reading about Evergrande, the stock market, and learn a little bit more, as tomorrow is the day, although of course in Beijing, what is local time in Beijing, we can see now. Just gonna check. It's 8:49 p.m. EST in Hawk Island, so it's in Beijing is 8:49, so 12 hours. So Beijing is morning, market's gonna open, and so the markets, the financial markets, and Evergrande is going in business now. It's almost 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. Workers in the construction sites in Beijing, across China, of course. And I am still in the process of learning Chinese as my New Year's resolution for world peace. We'll see perhaps by December, when I got my deadline. I have a conversation level Chinese. It has not been easy, and with the financial stress, it has been a little bit of a burden, doing here and there, and don't have the financial security, and we got to ensure and secure freedom so that we can learn more about each other, our cultures, and how we're going to reach 21st century in a public-private partnership, a universal revolutionary centrism, not communism, not fascism, but learning from our respective civilizations, Western civilization, North American civilization emerging, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon, worldwide, global, international, emerging global civilization with Sino civilization, which refers to the civilization of China, more than 5,000-year-old civilization that we shouldn't fail to see solely through the lens of a one-party communist state. We should achieve the universal revolutionary centrism for world peace, international justice, and global freedom in the 21st century humanity. So they're calling on all willingly loving to create the National Citizen Integrated Social Security Force, aka the Dragon Army. If you can do the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, and this applies to all private and public security forces, armed forces, police forces, you gotta do it within the rules. The rules are simple: 93 minutes to do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hogs, that Trinity push-up hog squats, 100 for each, 93 minutes, an hour and a half. That's 93 minutes to do it. You gotta do it maximum 13 reps per set, minimum 3, anywhere in between 7, 6, 10. A minimum is required of jogging, marching, walking, fast pace of 31 seconds in between each exercise. So once you start the 93-minute countdown, there's no stop. You keep in mind it was designed, made, and created to go with a World War III scenario, the devastation of society as we know it due to World War III. Of course, in my scenario, it was lots of bombing, lots of devastation across the world, and then the establishment and reconstruction, recreation, the destruction, if you will, which we're in the process of. Your story suffered a lot, struggled, suicidal, you name it, depression, loneliness, spent many years, financial precariousness, precarious employment, struggling with illness, like pestilence, disease of the world came upon me in many ways, chronic illness, loneliness. Spent many years in the libraries of the city of Montreal. They became my second home, and thousands of books I've read and written, poetry and scripts, and the birth of the Phoenix People's Party and the debt refusion theory, written more than 7 years ago. Yours truly, simple, taking all private and public debt, taking that number of all existing public and private debt, taking that number to credit the global central bank by biometrics in order to finance the two aforementioned institutions. International integrated dance league, integrated Albion, all gender, all ages inclusive dance league, all sexual orientation, all ages. We can have professional dancers for sure, but of course we can bust the dance move how we can. And of course, in parallel, complementary covenant institution to the Dancing Goddess Army, to attain harmony between civilization and nature by organizing mass dances in order to mass clean the oceans, rivers, waterways, lakes, forests, thereof, and mass finance solar, hydro, and electric power. The International Integrated Citizen Social Security Force, aka the Dragon Army, in order to secure the three elements of civilization by this public-private partnership: for all subjects, allies, citizens of the empire. The Dancing Goddess, the Dragon. Food, housing, and transport. Once we have secured those three elements, we can encourage people to work out, volunteer, do community work, socially reward volunteering, community work, and exchange and integrate. Right, and since 1984, a lot of specialization and division to integrate and go volunteer and go see the rural, the urban, and travel a lot and do a lot of volunteering and community organization at all levels of society. Dragon Zero, stays on Adrian Hannah Dragon. I'm gonna get some more coffee and we're gonna start this reading session. Evergrande Group, or the Evergrande Real Estate Group, previously Henga Group, pronounced Evergrande, is the second largest private developer in China by sales. Wow. Real estate development or private development is a business process encompassing activities that range from the renovation and release of existing buildings to the purchase of raw land and the sale of developed land or parcels to others. Real estate developers are the people and in China by sales. It is ranked 122nd on the Fortune Global 500. It is incorporated in the Cayman Islands and headquartered in the Hohai Financial Center in Nanshan District, Shenzhen, Guangdong Province, China. It was founded in 1996. Guangdong, what a beautiful mega city. Wow, look at those pictures. I mean, skyscrapers. Twin Towers of Guangzhou seen from Hangsha Island. That's huge. I see the people below this. Huge towers. Province in China. It was founded in 1996 by Shu Jingyang, or Hui Kaiyan in Cantonese. Is a Chinese billionaire businessman and chairman of Evergrande Group, a Chinese real estate developer. It sells apartments mostly to upper and middle income dwellers. In 2018, it became the most valuable real estate company in the world, and this is where it's important. In 2018, it became the most valuable real estate company in the world. In 2018, it became the most valuable real estate company in the world. Real estate is property consisting of land and the buildings on it, along with its natural resources, such as crops, minerals, or water. Immovable property of this nature. An interest vested in this, also an item of real property, buildings or housing in general, in the world. And I'll read that one more time. In 2018, it became the most valuable real estate company in the world. And this is why it's so important that tomorrow what happens with, although it's already tomorrow in China is almost 9, it's 9 p.m. almost EST Hawk Island. In Beijing time is Beijing time. In capital of China is 8:57 a.m. so it's 12-hour difference. It's morning there. The sun's rising there as it has set here. And so the Great Reset. No, not the Great Reset. I'm gonna go get that after. So it became the most valuable real estate company in the world. This is reported by China's Evergrande tops world's most valuable real estate brand. Xinhua News Agency. China Evergrande Group. Formerly called the Henga Group, Evergrande was founded by Hu and in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou in 1996. Guangzhou, also known as Canton, capital of Guangdong province in southern China. Look at those, wow, look at those skyscrapers, the majestic building that China has been building since in the past, since 1989, it's just 84, 89, whatever, 96, and recently since 2007, it's just the urbanization, during a period of mass urbanization in China in the past 30 years. In October 2009, when was the midst of the Great Recession, the financial crisis, which began in 2007, late July, which you might remember that my work hours were cut 3 times. Went from working overtime, more than 40 hours a week, then to 35, then cut again to 30, then to 25, 3 times during less than a year, from 2008, about early August 2008 till about August 2008. In a year, less than a year maybe, my hours were cut 3 times working in retail. Had investments, was investing regularly, but got hit hard as a worker on the front lines. There's millions across the free world. Well, it's very bitter that some got their big checks right in the banking and financial institutions, and the outrage there was not as expected. But a lot of course, people got big bonuses on Wall Street, and lots of people like me on the front line were kind of let down in mass. Ah, well, all the investment I was making and I'm making is COVID, living in the world's financial crisis, is lost 77 pounds, getting fit, paradox, in the fittest, strongest, most athletic condition of my adult life. Yours truly. Gonna get some more coffee and we're gonna continue. So that's why it's so important what happens now as markets open. In China this morning, about Evergrande's debt default. So just gonna read a little bit about the headlines before we continue. Investors may be further left smarting after Evergrande as China retools economic policy. What does that mean? Social stability is paramount, meaning anything that might spark unrest or appear to privilege wealthy privates. Major Evergrande backer Chinese estates may sell all its shares. Chinese Estates Holdings Limited sold shares in China Evergrande Group and said it may exit all its holdings, a major withdrawal. And as Evergrande faces key deadline, I think tomorrow or Thursday, which is already, it's Wednesday here, but in China it's already Thursday, so 3 p.m. Thursday local Beijing time, so in 6 hours and 6 minutes. China's embattled property developer Evergrande faced a Thursday deadline to pay interest on one of its dollar bonds, because it has a dual dollar and yuan, right? China Evergrande mess is spreading and hurting big mining companies. The iron ore and steel party is over. Globe and Mail. Since then, China's housing woes have been exposed by the liquidity crisis at Evergrande, the world's most indebted housing real estate developer. Seoul, in South Korea. South Korean stocks opened steeply lower Thursday after the 3-day Chuseok holiday, following comments by the U.S. Federal Reserve due to the Evergrande fallout. Evergrande meltdown. Debt deal reached, but will it satisfy investors? Global News. China Evergrande agreed to settle interest payments on a domestic bond on Wednesday. Domestic bond on Wednesday, so internal in China. While the Chinese central bank injected how Evergrande could disrupt the global economy if fall hits China harder than predicted. If any of these risks do materialize, we would be most concerned about the demand spillovers from a big decline in Chinese. As Evergrande fails, China's housing market could go flat. What this means for Beijing. If the government can prevent a bubble that collapses, then that just leaves people in a good position. Evergrande strikes deal to meet Chinese bond payment, but foreign dollar investors still up in air. A teetering Chinese real estate developer unexpectedly struck an 11th hour deal to pay what it owes to some of its domestic. Explain why Evergrande's debt struggle is rattling investors around the world. Global investors are watching nervously as one of China's biggest real estate developers struggles to avoid defaulting. Is the Evergrande meltdown China's Lehman Brothers moment? Lehman Brothers was, of course, the one that fell in 2008 due to the CDOs and collateral debt obligation that should have never been on the market in the first place. Struggling Evergrande Group said it will make bond payments. So back to the Evergrande. October 2009, the company raised 732 million US dollars in an initial public offering on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange IPO. An IPO, or initial public offering, or stock launch, is a public offering in which shares of a company are sold to institutional investors and usually also retail individual investors. An IPO is typically underwritten by one or more investment banks, who also arrange for the shares to be listed on one or more stocks. In summer of 2021, the company was at risk of a liquidity crisis as a result of payments due on its debt, estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars. The required debt payments were one of the reasons for a drop in many stock market indices on September 2021. That's 2 days ago. That happened Monday. The required debt payments were one of the reasons for a drop in many stock market indices on September 2021. This is reached. So we will go from 96 to the founding, to October 2009, to the IPO, to the summer of 2001. The company was a liquidity crisis. And now, September 20, 2021, we have when the stock market dropped due to the required debt payments. Headquarters in Shenzhen, Guangdong Province. Shenzhen is a major subprovincial city and one of the special economic zones of China. I'm looking at a picture of Shenzhen. There's majestic skyscrapers. It's really unbelievable. Since 1989, 84, 96, since 2007, what this major mass urbanization that China undertook, and the major move of the population from rural to urban, and the skyscrapers that have been built since 2007 and since 96 and 89 and 84 in the past years, incremental steps. So real estate, continuing the Evergrande Group. Real estate, the Evergrande Group owns 565 million square meters of development land and real estate projects in 22 cities, including Guangzhou, Tianjin, Shenyang, Wuhan, Kunming, Chengdu, Chongqing. Chongqing is another huge metropolis. Tianjin, Shenyang, Nanking. Look at the pictures are just wow. Nanjing, Shenzhou, Luoyang, Shengsha, Nanning, Xi'an, Taiwan, not Taiwan, Taiyuan, and Guliang in mainland China. Notable projects by the company include Ocean Flower Island in Hainan. Evergrande Real Estate is the second largest property developer in China. It is known as Wanhengba, with the other top three real estate companies. Wanqi is a large residential real estate developer in China, and Country Garden. The firm has developed projects in over 170 cities in China. It is the second largest real estate developer in mainland China. Evergrande Plaza in Chengdu was designed by ADAS and completed in 2014. That's tourism and recreation. Evergrande owns two major theme park brands, Hengda Children of the World, Hengda Water World, and Hainan has a large tourist complex, Chinese island of Hainan to spend. The under construction Ocean Flower Island in Hainan is one of its major projects. In 2010, it acquired football club Guangzhou Evergrande FC and invested heavily to acquire top players. In 2013, under Marcelo Lippi, the group won the 2013 AFC Champions League. Alibaba also has a 50% stake in the football club. On April 16, 2020, Evergrande opened the construction of Guangzhou Evergrande Football Stadium in Ji Village, Panyu District, Guangzhou. Evergrande Football School is a football tutoring school. The company is a sponsor of the Women's Guangdong Evergrande Volleyball Club. Automotive. In 2018, Evergrande has acquired a 45% stake in electric vehicle company Faraday Future for $2 billion through its Evergrande Health subsidiary. In November 2019, Evergrande announced that it would invest 45 billion yuan over the following 3 years to develop new energy vehicles, build 3 production bases in Nansha, Guangzhou, and Shanghai, and launch electric vehicles branded as Evergrande New Energy Vehicle in 2020. In 2020, the company launched the Hengxi electric vehicle brand. In July 2019, the company partnered with State Grid Corporation of China to develop electric vehicle charging stations. In June 2020, Evergrande Group acquired the remaining 49% of NEVS for 380 million, after having acquired 51% of the shares for 931 million in 2019. Health. In March 2015, Evergrande acquired New Media Group Holdings and renamed it Evergrande Health. Evergrande Health Group operates Evergrande Health Valley, a valley and wellness park and retirement community. It also works with Birmingham and Women's Hospital in Massachusetts to manage Bao Evergrande International Hospital in Hainan. Entertainment. The Hangda Music Festival Tour concert operated in over 30 cities in 2014 and included performances by Kui Jiang. Hang Ten Networks was formed in 2015 in partnership with Tencent. In October 2020, Hang Ten Networks announced that it would acquire Rui Pictures for Hong Kong dollars for Hong Kong dollars. Dancing Goddess Empire emblem. Dragon Army, Dragon Empire flag. Dancing Goddess. And the Dragon Empire, one empire under the sun and the stars on earth. And a bird's agenda. It says in French, the birds of North America. Partnership with Tencent. Tencent Limited, also known as Tencent, is a Chinese multinational technology conglomerate holding company. Founded in 1998, its subsidiaries globally market various internet-related services and products, including in entertainment, artificial intelligence, and other technologies. In October 2020, Hang Ten Networks announced that it would acquire Rui Pictures for 7.2 billion Hong Kong dollars. Not sure how much Hong Kong dollars. How much is that? Which is a, let's see, which is a Hong Kong dollar? HK dollar, Canadian. Yeah, let's see. So 1 Hong Kong dollar is 16 cents Canadian. So we got to take that into consideration because the here is specifically it says HK dollars. So the symbol for the dollar, but it's HK or Hong Kong dollars. In August 2021, so it's like almost not close to 1/5. So we got to divide by 5, by even 5 point something, almost by 6 if it's in US dollars. So that's about 1 billion US. It's not 1 for 1, right? So 7.2 billion Hong Kong dollars is about 1 billion US. A billion, however, has 9 zeros. It's 1,000 million. So it's still a big number. It's just we got to keep in mind the Forex market, which is the biggest, paradoxical providential, by the way, the biggest market in the world, although not a lot of people are probably not, some people are not aware of that. I don't know how many, maybe a majority, maybe more. But the biggest market is actually, of course, the Forex market. It's trillions of dollars, right? Mainly because of import-export business, travel, tourism, right? Foreign exchange. Forex means foreign exchange, so US dollars, Canadian dollars. Euro now is euro. Before it was franc, the lira, the Deutsche Mark, Germany, Italy, France, and all the other European countries. Now countries use, some have retained a dual currency system, but not Germany, not many countries, so only the euro many countries use, right? European Central Bank create a common currency, which in favor of the universal unit of exchanges by debt refusion I mentioned in my introduction. So Tencent, in October 2020, Hang Ten Networks announced that it will acquire Rui Pictures for 72 billion Hong Kong dollars. In August 2021, the company sold a 7% stake in Hang Ten to Tencent for 418 million, and I guess that's US dollars. From Reuters. Finance. In November 2015, Evergrande acquired a 50% stake in Sino Singapore Great Eastern Life Insurance Company for 617 million and changed its name to Evergrande Life. It also owns shares in Shengjing Bank. Shengjing Bank is a commercial bank with its headquarters in Shenyang, Liang Province, China. It was established in 1996 as Shenyang City Commercial Bank and opened in Shenyang City only. It changed its name to Jingyang Bank in 2007, 11 years later, and has since opened a branch in Beijing. Food and agriculture. 2014, Evergrande Group launched its Hengabyunga, later Evergrande Spring, mineral water brand and invested yuan 5.54 billion in it. So let's see how much is the yuan. Yuan, because it's not the same amount, right? So the numbers are provided. It's exactly 20 cents now. 9:18 EST, Hawk Island, Montreal, North America time. So it's exactly 1/5. So we got to divide by 5, right? The ratio, proportionality. If it's if 1 Chinese yuan equals 20 Canadian cents, since it's 100 cents per every dollar, it's 20%, right? So 20% is 1/5 if we are to do the fractions mathematically, right? 1/5 or 20%. So either way we go about it, that means that we would divide the number of 5.54 billion by 5. So we'd get 1.1025. So it's still a lot. It's still a billion Canadian dollars, which a billion is 1,000 million. So yuan. 1 yuan equals 20 Canadian cents. So that means that for a Canadian dollar, you'd get 5, right? The reverse, if the other way is divided by 5, the reverse is multiplying by 5. So if we are to get how many numbers of yuans we get, we'd multiply. If we are to get the number of how many Canadian dollars we get, we'd divide by 5. Because the ratio for 1 Chinese yuan is 0.20. And it's an inverse relation, right? Times 5 divided. Multiplication. If we are to figure out how much a Canadian dollar is, it would be 5 yuan, right? If we are to put there, yuan. So it's exactly 5 yuans. I remember when I was investing, I was saving before the great financial crisis hit me hard. My work hours were cut 3 times. I wanted to go to university, had plans, but it was hit hard with financial crisis due to that, depression, and spent years struggling, streets, precarious employment, loneliness, chronic illness, and the libraries in the city of Montreal, like the pestilences of the world, came upon me. Suffered, was suicidal. And spent years in second home my life, the libraries of Montreal, read thousands of books, but before, blacks were in my head, got acquired savant syndrome. In a parallel life, science, innovation, and technology and finance would have been a chosen path, diverged towards the philosophical, the spiritual, the irrational, the creative, the artistic. Dancing was a living poet. A parallel life, finance, commerce, banking would have been a chosen path, and along with science, innovation, and technology, diverged, but can connect them due to acquired savant syndrome, perhaps fast speed learning. This full moon cleaning, reordering, purifying moon rite continues. So yours truly had was buying. I remember buying, not only investing regularly bi-weekly, as was working overtime, and before the financial crisis hit me hard, and was investing, was even buying yuans, a lot of yuans in their ratio, because I knew it was going to go up in value. So it seemed that when I was buying for every Canadian dollar more than 6, was like 6 point something, even close to 7 yuan. So matter of fact, if I would have kept money, the yuans I would have probably made, I would have made 25-30% on it if I would have sold it now. Although with inflation, would have been less. And of course, there's complaints that the yuan is pegged, and yes, there's some of that. We'll not go into that. Back to the Evergrande. Including hiring Jackie Chan to promote the brand. Note 37. September 2016, after a loss of 4 billion yuan, wow, it's not big. Evergrande sold its agribusiness units, which included its mineral water brand, dairy business, and grain and oil business, for 2.7 billion. In 2016, Evergrande announced it was investing 300 million yuan to build more than 110 pig farms in southern Guingdong Guizhou province. December 9, retrieved 2020. Back to mountain controversies. 2014, Evergrande's water brand received significant negative attention from Korean consumers, as the water source on the label was listed as Zhangbaishan rather than the Korean name Mount Baekdusan. The use of the Chinese name of the mountain, which borders China and North Korea, is a point of stress between China and South Korea. Citron Research Report. In 2016, the Hong Kong Market Misconduct Tribunal suspended American short seller and Citron Research founder Andrew Left for 5 years due to the publication of a highly critical report on the company, finding him culpable of disclosing false or misleading misinformation inducing transactions under the Securities and Futures Ordinance (SFO). In the publication of a research report on Evergrande Real Estate Group Limited, Evergrande, in June 2012. The trading ban has raised concerns over freedom of speech in Hong Kong's financial markets. Now I'm looking at the revenue financial data in Chinese currency, Chinese yuan, CNY. From 2010 to 2020, it has gone up considerably. 10 years the revenue has gone 11 times from 45, not going to call them all out, but, and the equity as well. And then, not the net income, however, some big disproportionate net income there seem a bit odd, but first observation. The assets have also gone up a lot since 2010. So the revenue, just the revenue, let's go by that. 2010 in yuan was 45 billion yuan. 45 billion 801,401,000 in 2010. In 2020, from 45 billion it went to 507 billion, that's half a trillion, 248 million. So 11 times more. So basically it's 11 times, yeah. 45 times 11, yeah. 540, 11 times. Wow. Is that it? Yeah. Wow. So we'll see what's going on now at 9:27 p.m. EST. That's 9:27 a.m. in China, Beijing time. Although China has different time zones, but I'm gonna go Beijing, Shanghai, right? Shanghai time zone. Shanghai time, it's 9:28 a.m. in the morning, so markets are open. The Evergrande group situation is ongoing. And so that was the Evergrande group. Point of concern for tomorrow. Now, due to the correlation and the fact of my scenario, we're going to do a little bit of reading about the 2020 stock market crash. Quick fire reading. Ready, set, hold up. The 2020 stock market crash was a major and sudden global stock market crash that began on February 20th, 2020 and ended on April 7th. When I healed from COVID around that day, it was very sickling disease. It was like death, pestilence and disease. The 2020 stock market crash was a major and sudden global stock market crash that began on February 20th, 2020 and ended on April 7th. Beginning on May 13, 2019, the yield curve on U.S. Treasury security inverted and remained so until October 11, 2019, when it reverted to normal. So yield curve. In finance, the yield curve is a graph which depicts how the yields on debt instruments such as bonds vary as a function of their years remaining to maturity. United States Treasury securities are government debt instruments issued by the United States Department of the Treasury to finance government spending as an alternative to taxation. Treasury securities are often referred to simply as treasuries. Since 2012, U.S. government debt has been, inverted. In finance, the yield curve is a graph which depicts how the yields on debt instruments such as bonds vary as a function of their years remaining to maturity. Typically, the graph's horizontal or x-axis is a timeline of months or years remaining to maturity, with the shortest maturity on the left, until October 11th, when it reverted to normal. In finance, the yield curve is a graph which depicts to 2019, while some economists, including Campbell Harvey and former New York Federal Reserve economist Arturo Estrella, argued that a recession in the following year was likely. Other economists, including the managing director of Wells Fargo Securities. Wells Fargo is an American multinational financial services company with corporate headquarters in San Francisco. Was there in a past life, lived a few years in San Francisco in a past life. In San Francisco, California, operational headquarters in Manhattan and managerial offices throughout the United States and internationally. Michael Schumacher and San Francisco Federal Reserve President Mary C. Daly argued that inverted yield curves may no longer be a reliable recession predictor. The yield curve on U.S. Treasuries would not invert again until January 30th of January 2020. That's when I started getting sick. 30th of January 2020. Until about February 20, I was sick and disease. Had COVID, like I said at the beginning. Don't know what caused it. Believe it was snakes to human beings. And third, since don't know for sure, my belief in snakes transmitted is now 100%. Cannot rule out another possibility. XYZ, man-made virus, accident gone wrong, a bioweapon, an experiment. What do know fourth dimension to that trinity? What do know for sure is that before COVID-19 3 days created the General War Integrated Whole Body Training System, made, designed, and created to go to World War III scenario, as in having analyzed the world situation geopolitically, the events of the U.S.-China trade war, the arrest of Meng Wanzhou, RCMP, and of course, subsequently the Michael Spavor, Michael Kovic detained in China due to the RCMP, detaining Kathy Meng to honor an extradition treaty with the United States. Taking those factors into consideration, October 17, 2019 held my first session of the General War Integrated Whole Body Training System, of which I've held 213 sessions so far. This on the ground room, office, and temple, and now performing several outdoors in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead, until the rocks get covered by snow. If they do, the climate change, maybe I'll be able to work. Even outside due to rocks on the mountain, be not so much snow. And since in my scenario had a solution to the destruction of the World War III, the recreation, creating the International Citizen Integrated Social Security Force, aka the Dragon Army, by mobilizing 1% of NATO member citizens, creating and integrating with all public and private security forces and armed forces. Security forces and armed forces, and creating the Dragon Army to secure your food, housing, and transport for all by a public-private partnership in parallel complementary covenant with the International Integrated Dance League. Yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, will continue now. So, yield curve on U.S. Treasuries would not invert again until January 30, 2020, so last year, when the World Health Organization, WHO, declared the COVID-19 outbreak to be a public health emergency of international concern. now we'll read quickly the timeline of the COVID-19 pandemic. The timeline of the COVID-19 pandemic lists the articles containing the chronology and epidemiology of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes the coronavirus disease and is responsible for the COVID-19 pandemic. The first human cases of COVID-19 were identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019. December 1st, I believe. Although some argue it was November 2019. So the timeline of the COVID-19 pandemic lists the articles containing the chronology and epidemiology of COVID, SARS-CoV, the virus that caused the coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, and is responsible for the COVID-19 pandemic. The first human cases of COVID-19 were identified in Wuhan, China, in December 2019. The WHO, World Health Organization, declared the COVID-19 outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. A public health emergency of international concern is a formal declaration by the World Health Organization of an extraordinary event which is determined to constitute a public health risk to other states, to the international spread of disease, and to potentially require a coordinated international response, formulated where the situation arises that is serious, sudden, unusual, or unexpected, which carries implications for public health beyond the affected state's national borders. World Health Organization, April 7th, 1948, 73 years ago. Since 2009, there have been 6 public health emergency of international concerns, or also known as PHEIC declarations. 2009 H1N1 or swine flu pandemic. 2014 polio declaration, the 2014 outbreak of Ebola in Western Africa, 2015-2016 Zika virus epidemic, 2018-2020 Kivu Ebola epidemic, and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Timeline of COVID. WHO declared COVID a pandemic on 11th of March. (2020). At this stage in the pandemic, May 2020, precisely how humans in China were initially infected with SARS-CoV. So back to the 2020 stock market crash. It was this major and sudden global stock market crash that began on 20th of February 2020 and ended April 7th. First 27 Coven cases of a viral pneumonia strain outbreak on January 1st. Though the crash began on 20th of February, selling was intensified during the first half of March to mid-March. Stock market crash. So the 2020 stock market crash was a major and sudden global stock market crash that began on 20th of February 2020 and ended April 7th. Bear market stock market crash. You can see the downward slope. Cause: COVID-19 pandemic induced market instability, recession fears, market liquidity crises. Outcome: stock market instability, COVID-19 recession. The COVID-19 recession is an ongoing global economic recession. I'm reading this because in parallel to what happens now in Evergrande and in the coming days, weeks in the US with the US government debt, so this trinity could cause another global stock market crash and trigger us into a global financial collapse. Worst case scenario. That's why tomorrow I'm gonna go with the $13.3 that I have. I'm gonna go get a few bags of noodles. Noodles. Well, and where would they be? Probably produce more cheaper, more affordable. I can afford at this moment in time will be the ones that are probably from China that have about 360 calories each bag and would probably cost an average of 27 cents each bag if I buy the 12 packs. So get maybe 12 packs. It's gonna cost me that's 36. So if rations one a day, that's 36 days survival. Worst case scenario, global financial collapse triggers what in my scenario, World War III. World Peace Advocate created it for the destruction, but for the greater good. As yours truly is. So I've been through suffering, depression, suicide, and in many ways I died during COVID. Adrian H, Dragon born, nobody's born a dragon. Ooh, streets, dragon streets. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. That's the motto of the Dragon Army, officially titled International Citizen Integrated Social Security Force, which I'm calling the creation just as envisioned in my scenario. Mobilizing 1% of allo population of NATO member countries in order to mass finance and secure the three elements of civilization: food, housing, and transport for all. Once we have those three secured, we can encourage people to volunteer, work out, train, exercise, cultural exchange, dance, love, and more love. And world peace, international security by securing the three aforementioned: food, housing, and transport, and attain world peace and ensure and secure freedom. The 2019 recession is an ongoing global economic recession in direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The recession has been the worst global economic crisis since the Great Depression, which occurred in the 1930s, so in more than 7 years. The recession has been the worst global economic crisis since the Great Depression in the 1930s, so more than 77 years. The recession has been the worst global economic crisis since the Great Depression, 77 years. So far, the recession has lasted 1 year and 6 months worldwide, beginning in February 2020. Following a global economic slowdown during 2019 that saw stagnation of global stock markets and consumer activity, the COVID-19 lockdowns and other precautions taken during the COVID-19 pandemic threw the global economy into crises. Within 7 months, every advanced economy had fallen to recession or depression. While all emerging economies were in a recession. Modeling by the World Bank suggests that in some regions, a full recovery will not be achieved until 2020 or beyond. The first major sign of recession was the 2020 stock market crash. The 2020 stock market crash was a major and sudden global stock market crash that began on February 20th, 2020 and ended on April 7th, which saw major indices drop 20 to 30% in late February and March. Recovery began in early April 2020. And many market indices recovered or even set new records by late 2020. COVID-19 recession, map showing real GDP growth. Date 20th of February 2020, so that's when it began with stock market crash, the COVID-19 recession, and it's ongoing. The date from February 20th, 2020 to ongoing. And what is the type? Type is a global recession. Cause: COVID-19 induced market instability and lockdown. Outcome: 2020 stock market crash, sharp rise in unemployment, collapse of the tourism industry, collapse of the hospitality industry, collapse of the price of oil, collapse of small businesses, destabilization and collapse of the energy industry, increase in government debt, increase in economic inequality between rich and poor, major downturn in consumer activity, market liquidity crises, protests, riots, and civil unrest. So the COVID-19 recession, date 20 of February 2020 and ongoing, it hasn't ended. If we implement your solution, fusion, debt refusion, refusing all private and public debt, creating the two institutions with the global central bank by biometrics to issue biometric unit of exchange by hand, voice, and the eye being unique biometric identifiers. Then, of course, creating the parallel two institutions, complementary cooperative covenant institutions of the International Integrated Dance League, aka the Dancing Goddess Army, complementary to the Dragon Army. Securing food, housing, and transport, we can encourage people to work out, train, volunteer, and exercise, do community work, ensure community work and volunteering and public hygiene. Encourage and socially reward people who volunteer, exercise, do community work, all willingly living are called to this great war for world peace, new world order of world peace, international justice, securing global freedom. Yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, Dragon Zero Captain, General Captain, founding Captain of the Dragon Army. Since July 24, having advocating for their solution, creating the two aforementioned parallel complementary covenant cooperative institutions, Dancing Goddess and Dragon Army, two sides to a coin, protain harmony between civilization and nature, moderate nature the greatest artist, ensure secure food, housing, and transport. 2019 recession. Stop throwing filth, dirt, and poison in my eye, brother. 2019 recession, date 20th of February 2020, is ongoing. Type global recession, cause COVID-19 pandemic induced market instability and lockdown. Outcome: 2020 stock market crash, sharp rise in unemployment, collapse of the tourism industry, collapse of the hospitality industry, collapse of the price of oil, collapse of small businesses, destabilization and collapse of the energy industry, increase in government debt, increase in economic inequality between rich and poor, major downturn in consumer activity, market liquidity crises, protests, riots, and civil unrest and shortages. So the COVID-19 recession began February of 2020 February 20, 2020, and is ongoing. Global recession. The cause: COVID-19 induced pandemic-induced market instability and lockdown. Outcome: 2020 stock market crash, sharp rise in unemployment, collapse of the tourism industry, collapse of the hospitality industry, collapse of the price of oil, collapse of small businesses, destabilization and collapse of the energy industry, increase in government debt, increase in economic inequality between rich and poor, major downturn in consumer activity, market liquidity crises, protests, riots and civil unrest, and shortages. And now I'm going to go at the rest of the coffee for continuing a special reading session. U.S. government debt. This has been in the news and to my email. The worries of the default. So I'm just gonna read some headlines in the news. U.S. debt default would plunge country into downturn to rival 2008 Great Recession and delay Social Security payments, as Treasury Department warns. The idea of the US government breaching its debt limit sounds scary, but what exactly are lawmakers in Washington doing? Anxious Democrats float Plan B, raise debt ceiling on party line vote. A number of key Democrats say that their party should take matters into its own hands and raise the national debt limit. House approval of plan for US debt sets up clash with GOP. Democrats are sending a measure to the Senate that would allow the government to keep paying its bills, but Republicans are. US debt default would plunge country into economic crises. US Fed warns of severe damage if senators allow debt default. An hour ago, Federal Reserve Board Chairman Jerome Powell said failure to pay US debts is just not something we can contemplate. Here's what happens if Congress does not increase the debt ceiling for the US. The federal debt limit, also known as the debt ceiling, is the amount the government is allowed to spend beyond tax income. US House passes bill to avert government shutdown, suspends federal debt limit. US House of Representatives has passed a bill to avert the government shutdown and decided to fund the government. And will Congress lift the debt ceiling and prevent a government shutdown? Just like you and me, the federal government can run out of money if it doesn't plan ahead. And like for us, it can lead to US House approves bill to suspend debt limit, avoid government shutdown. These government benefits would be at risk if Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling. Explainer why the debt limit is again roiling Washington. The idea of the US government breaching its debt limit sounds scary, but what exactly are lawmakers in Washington doing? Playing with fire. Democrats, Republicans on collision course over debt limit spending. Democrats own the debt ceiling debacle. The United States government should default on the national debt during the next few weeks. Democrats will be responsible. U.S. economy. Democrats look to raise debt ceiling, fund government through December 3rd. U.S. economy. Democrats look to raise debt ceiling, fund government through December 3rd. U.S. economy. Democrats look to raise debt ceiling, fund government through December 3rd. Democrats look to raise debt ceiling, fund government through or until December 3rd. less than 3 months, right? The International Business Times reports. And now, complementary to this, what I'm reading, I'm gonna be reading something. See if there's something that we can support here in parallel to the mission, vision, and philosophy of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Army, the Dragon Empire, which are one empire under the sun, under the stars, under the moon, on earth for world peace, international justice, global security, attaining harmony between civilization and nature. With the Phoenix People's Party, the anti-war, anti-poverty, anti-racism, pro-love, universal revolutionary centrist party. The Great Reset, the Great Reset, the Great Reset. Please stop with the conspiracy theories, especially the ones surrounding my astrological brother, Bill Gates. Me and Bill Gates are Scorpio. Scorpio is astrologically Scorpion astro sign. I'm inviting Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, working right in this underground room, office and temple to ask us gazillion trillion questions about science, innovation, and technology, which would have been a chosen path for yours truly in a parallel life. Great Reset. The Great Reset is the name of the 50th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum held in June 2020, so in the midst of the COVID-19 health and financial crisis. It brought together high-profile business and political leaders, convened by Charles, Prince of Wales, and the WEF, with the theme of rebuilding society and the economy in a sustainable way following the COVID-19 pandemic. WEF Chief Executive Officer Klaus Schwab described three core components of the Great Reset. I like that number 3, since I'm calling for the security, ensuring for all willingly living to become citizens, subjects, allies of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire. The 3 elements of civilization: food, housing, and transport via public-private partnership, and the creation of a global central bank by putting my theory into practice of debt refusing all private and public debt, including my own of 10,000, creating a universal global bank, global central bank, and universal unit of exchange by biometrics. The hand, the eye, and the voice are unique biometrics, and securing food, housing, and transport, which will be the mission of the Dragon Army, complementary to the Dancing Goddess Army, to dance for the environment and attain harmony between civilization and with nature, and then move forward the global civilization in the universal revolutionary centrism for world peace, international justice, and global freedom in the 21st century. 3 core components of the Great Reset. The first involves creating conditions for a stakeholder economy. The second component includes building in a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable way based on environmental, social, and governance ESG metrics, which would incorporate more green public infrastructure projects. The third component is to harness the innovations of the 4th Industrial Revolution for public good. These 3 can align with the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire, can align perfectly in concordance to the unit of exchange, global unit of exchange, the debt refusion theory put into practice, the mission, vision, and philosophy for world peace, international justice, and global freedom. This can align, cooperate perfectly with these 3 that it's mentioning here. The first involves creating conditions for a stakeholder economy where food, housing, and transport are the Dragon Army, which will secure for all. The second component includes building a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable way based on environmental, social, and governance metrics, which would incorporate more green public infrastructure, Dancing Goddess for the environment, to dance for in support of those, and massage and love and wash the hands and feet of those workers who do that with the Dancing Goddess Army. The body, BODY, is a temple for purpose and for pleasure, and hygiene is super important. Take care. Matter of fact, after this cup of coffee, I'm gonna take a bath. The third component is to harness the innovation of the 4th Industrial Revolution for public good, for the greater good. Keynote speech, opening dialogues, and International Monetary Fund Director Kristina Georgieva listed 3 key aspects of the sustainable response green growth, smarter growth, and fairer growth at the launch event for the Great Reset. Prince Charles listed key areas for action similar to those listed in the Sustainable Markets Initiative, introduced in January 2020. This included the reinvigoration of science, technology, and innovation, move towards net zero transitions globally, the introduction of carbon prices, reinventing long-standing incentive structures, rebalancing investments to include more green investments, and encouraging green public infrastructure projects. In June 2020, the theme of the January 2021 51st World Economic Forum annual meeting was announced as the Great Reset, connecting both in-person and online global readers in Davos, Switzerland, with a multi-stakeholder network in 400 cities around the world. The Great Reset will also be the main theme of the WEF Summit in Lucerne in May 2021. We can rock and roll with that. We can definitely rock and roll with that. Align with that. Adrian Hannah Dragon, yours truly. Playing Alliance, willingly living join, members of the aforementioned Great Reset, Davos, Switzerland Economic Forum, Charles, Prince of Wales, Klaus Schwab, Adrian Hannah Dragon, androgynous pansexual founder. Sexual liberation and freedom has not been easy and without tears for me personally, being bisexual, pansexual. 13.3 years I've struggled, repressed it, being depressed, suicidal because of it. Only 7 years ago, waved my rainbow flag with pride and openly, indoors and outdoors. And has not been without tears for individuals like myself and collectively. And of course, the body is a temple for purpose and pleasure, and the body and the individual rights and freedom balanced, freedom secured, ensured rather by the three elements of society and civilization: food, housing, and transport by public-private partnership, a global central bank by debt reset, a great reset. We can align, cooperate. Yours truly, Adrian H, born being reborn, Adrian Hannah Dragon. This has been a coffee and reading. Take a bath and we'll do a little bit of eating. My allies and armies love you, not just blah blah blah. Kissing, massaging, hugging, love you.